But chillier here today in the Tampa area. I bought this sweatshirt when I lived in, right when I was getting sober in Buffalo. I was living in an office building that didn't have any electricity that this guy I knew owned. And he, fucking, that's a whole other bag of beans. But had somebody message me. I've had like two or three people message me that are in the early stages of recovery, and they wanted to know some, things that they would avoid or mistakes that people make um, in the early phases of recovery. And the first one I can think of is, don't use, if you're going to meetings, which I highly recommend, and getting a sponsor and all that stuff, don't use the NA meetings or AA meetings as a place to meet people that, you want to become active with sexually or whatever, and start dating. And, because that's just a surefire way to a relapse, because now you're responsible for a partner that's already has a low chance of getting sober. So now you're dating people, you're basically on a dating website, you know what I mean? So I tell people, don't do that. That's one thing that when I went to NA meetings and AA, because I did go to AA meetings too if there weren't NA meetings. Come on, bud. Uh, I kind of seen that it was come on. I kind of seen that it was a place where, there's a lot of that going on. I would be the best way to say that. So I would avoid dating or being, if you're not in a relationship, I would definitely avoid getting in a relationship your first year of recovery. And for some people, they just can't imagine like not being in a relationship for a year, which is crazy to me. Like, people couldn't imagine going without sex for a year or whatever. Um, but if this is a progressive thing that eventually there's a couple stages to it, and whether it's alcoholism or drug use or whatever, it eventually leads to bigger and worse things, and even death. So if you treated this like someone, like if you had cancer, because that's what this really is, it's a fucking cancer, I would say, don't make the mistakes of like going to meetings, and don't make the mistakes of going to meetings and using it as a place to fucking hook. I'm not going back, because you're gonna go to meetings that suck, and it could be an off night at that meeting. It could just not be a good meeting. So you kind of, a lot of people, if I think another thing a lot of people don't do that are getting sober is they don't invest the time that they would, like if they were looking to score drugs, or going to buy alcohol, or hiding alcohol from people in their family, because there's so many things that go on in this subculture of bullshit. People don't want to put the work into it, or they want to take steps, the 12 steps, and kind of go, well, I'm going to do these 11, but I'm not doing this one. I'm not going to, I don't want to, I can still hang out with the same people, or, I can still work at a bar. And, and I tell anybody that's getting sober, if you think you're going to work at a bar and you're going to be long-term successful, probably not, it's probably not going to, I'm just being, if you're being fucking 100% honest with yourself, it's probably not going to happen. You know what I mean? Especially in today's world, don't make the mistake of hanging out with people that don't respect your sobriety. You know, I've had people that, especially where I'm from in Buffalo, where I'd be at the gym or something, or somebody would, they know you're sober, and they would call you and offer you opiates, or they would, take stuff in front of you or whatever. So those people don't respect your sobriety, and I'll tell you, the people, places, and the people, places, and things thing is really, for me, it's probably the most crucial out of all the steps. Like, you really have to just, like, because when I first came into it, I really was like, well, I can take this, and this, and use it, and I kind of got the rest of this figured out. Or, people expect to put themselves on, like, by a certain date, they're going to be sober, and everything's going to change overnight, and it just doesn't work like that at all. For the first 6 months, I was getting sober, and I was living a sober life, and I was seeing a doctor, and I was going to counseling. I remember the reoccurring theme was, well, if I'm getting sober and I'm clean, why am I so fucking miserable all the time? Like, I thought you were supposed to get better. So it doesn't happen overnight, but it does, it does get better. That I can tell you. So those are a couple off the top of my head. I think, like, I see people like, even people that have been in my life, or people that are at the gym, or people I've worked with, they just don't have any discernment when it comes to what kind of friends you want to have. You've got people that are friends with people where it doesn't take doesn't take Matt Damon. You don't have to be Matt Damon in Good Will Hunting to figure out that the people that you're hanging out with are people that do drugs, you know what I mean? Or are about that life still. Like, you want to hang out with people that are healthy. They could be in recovery too, but they're living that lifestyle. They're living, they're training for a fucking marathon, or, they're holding down a business, or, they're successful, and they're not sketchy people. I cannot tell you how many times when I talk to people, or when I, just am introduced to people, and I look around and I see who their friends are, and I just go, I don't think that person is going to, elevate your life. You know what I mean? And everybody is guilty of that to some point. You know what I mean? But I would just say, like, make sure that you're really, and think about this, like, how many times do you want to go to rehabs, or go in and out of jail, or how much more money do you want to waste, or relationships do you want to lose? Like, my ex-girlfriend that I was with before I got sober, what is a doctor now? You know what I mean? And I destroyed that relationship. You will destroy relationships. So come on, doggone. So don't, just be very cognizant. Like, I remember when I would be buying drugs, and I would be like, being in these situations, and I would see the people that I was buying drugs from, and it was always like a warning to myself, like, you don't want to end up like these people. I had a guy that his girlfriend would, like, hold a mirror up for him so he could shoot in his neck. Or I can't tell you how many times I've walked in a bathroom somewhere here, or even wherever, and somebody's got a fucking needle in their neck, you know what I mean? Or somebody's passed out. And, and another thing is not all people that are sketchy look fucking sketchy, you know what I mean? So just think of that too, like there's a lot of people, and I've had some in my life that they'll go through all the motions, like they're on some kind of emotional probation with you or something. And they'll, it's like they talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. And, a big thing you can tell about people is when people are sober and they're living a sober life, you can see it. You can maybe fool people. You can maybe fool people that aren't addicts or in recovery for a minute. You know what I mean? But it's very hard to fool somebody that's in this, that has been using drugs or has a history of, or has, some street smarts. You know what I mean? I was talking to a retired sheriff's deputy last night at the gym, and he was like, well, I was talking about somebody that, was using, that I worked with, and he was like, well, I couldn't imagine somebody who would try to be, under the influence around you and pass it off. And I go, yeah, but that's just part of it, man. That's what they do. And, like I was telling the guy over here, his wife is in recovery. I said, bro, you can tell. You don't even have to talk. Like, you could be sitting down watching television, and if she came home high, you could just feel it in the air. You know what I mean? And even, the guy that's a retired cop was like, yeah, you just, you develop these, I call it a sixth sense, but it's really, the Holy Spirit and discernment. You just know. And another thing I would say is you don't have to have proof. You don't have to, like if I don't like somebody or there's something about somebody, as I get older, I just learn to trust that voice, because it usually 9 times out of 10, it usually will come to where, oh, well, guess what? This happened, or that person, they fucking robbed a pharmacy or something stupid, and you're like, oh, well, who would have thought? So I tell people, don't think that you have to have that you're being a dick because you're like, well, I don't like this person, or I don't think this person's good for my sobriety or my life. And you just have to really build a life that you want, that's another thing is build a life that you want, start, you owe it to yourself, invest in yourself. I have a guy who I'm helping, wouldn't say I'm life coaching him, but as a parent, he's not really into the whole fucking drug scene. You know what I mean? He doesn't really know much about it. So I'm kind of helping him walk through, getting his son into, he's doing all the groundwork with the insurance and stuff, but kind of just telling him what, he needs to look for. And, and the biggest thing I told him is, if your son doesn't want to get clean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's court ordered or anything like that. They gotta want to get clean, because I'll tell you this. It doesn't matter if it's your wife, your child, myself, or anybody else. I've chosen drugs over jobs. I've chosen drugs over relationships. I've chosen drugs over, so it's it's that bad, so when you think like your kid isn't capable of doing this, or your significant other or whatever, this is a disease. It's not a disease. I hate calling it a disease, but this is all about deception and lying and, stop. He wants that fucking thing in the road. Goofball. This isn't something where people are going to be truthful. Come on, bud. Hey, what are you sniffing? As the world, the world isn't going to get better. You're going to see more and more people turn to this stuff for comfort or medicate themselves and everything else. You're going to see more of it. You're not going to see less of it. So I would just say arm yourself with as much understanding. You'll probably never understand if you've never used. Turn off this alarm. You'll probably never, I just ran into a guy a couple days ago that I worked at the Salvation Army, and he was a guy that I met there, and he just got all new teeth. It was completely different. And I said to him, stay away from people that will trigger you. And he said, yeah, he knew exactly what I was talking about. He's like my mom, my mom's a user. She's never, we'll stay the fuck away from her. You know what I mean? Well, it's my mom. Well, hey, do you want to get sober, or do you want to be like them? Do you want to bounce back into that situation? I've seen the repercussions of what this shit does to people. Living in this neighborhood, it's in all neighborhoods, it's in all areas. I can't tell you how many meetings I've been to where people have, been lawyers or low key, executives or doctors, or it affects people. I had a police officer that was in a meeting that was addicted to pain pills. It's something that, it destroys people's lives. You know what I mean? It's eventually going to destroy your life. It's nothing you want to fuck around with. I've had people just go and get a medical procedure, like get a tooth pulled, and they get some oxys and shit like that. And, now they're addicted now they've been on pain pills for 3 years, addicted to them, spending all their money, So I would just tell you, the difference between making it is really educating yourself and, having the tools, like the psychological tools, the mental health tools, the recovery meetings, the support. You really need us. If you don't have a good support team around you, and you don't have a good support group, you're better off if people don't support you. Fucking get rid of them, okay? Because anybody that doesn't support your sobriety is the enemy, okay? Anybody, and you're gonna think that, well, why wouldn't people want to support my sobriety? Well, because people don't really have your best interest in mind. Your cousin that you go fishing with, your friend, even your wife or whoever. Not everybody really, there's a lot of toxic fucking shit that goes on in your day to day, and you might not be cognizant of it because you've been high for the last whatever. I remember when I was getting sober, I remember saying, man, I don't even want to fucking deal with people. I don't want to deal with people unless I'm high. I remember telling my my counselor, I said, are people really this fucking stupid? People are aggravating. This dog's aggravating. Come on, bud. Dude, I'll pull you out of there. Come on. People are aggravating, and that's why I would say don't be in a relationship, if you're going to get If you're going to get sober, come on. If you're going to get sober or you are in the process, do not be, fucking hanging out with sketchy people, sketchy relationships, sketchy areas, people, places, and things. Get something to use, to fill your time up and fucking start with making your bed in the morning. Something as simple as that.